Hey, it's Lynn, and today I'm coming at you with a book review for Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I'll admit this book broke two personal records for me. It is one of the shortest novels I've ever read, and it is the first book I read aloud in a classroom as a teacher where I made the deliberate, unapologetic decision not to censor a single word. Not one. And I stand by that completely for reasons that will become very clear later on. Will Holloman is 15 years old, and he lives by three rules: no crying, no snitching, get revenge. These aren't rules he invented. They're the inherited code of his neighborhood, passed down like a family heirloom that nobody asked for, but everybody keeps. When his older brother Sean is shot and killed on his way home from buying their mother's eczema cream of all things, Will doesn't cry, doesn't speak to the police, and he barely flinches when the yellow tape goes up. Instead, the morning after, he reaches into the middle drawer of Sean's dresser, pulls out a gun that feels as heavy as an infant, and commits to rule number 3. The entirety of this novel takes place in 60 seconds. Will steps into the elevator of his apartment building, gun tucked beneath his shirt, headed for the lobby to find Riggs, the former friend he believes pulled the trigger. And at every floor on the way down, the elevator stops, the doors open, someone gets on, except none of them are alive. They are ghosts. Sean's mentor, Buck, Will's childhood friend Danny, Uncle Mark, who died chasing a dream, and Will's father Mikey, who tried to avenge his brother's murder and shot the wrong man. One by one they materialize, quiet and unhurried, as if they have nowhere left to be. And then on the very last floor, Sean himself steps on. He says nothing. He only weeps, breaking rule number 1, and as the doors open on the lobby, he steps out and turns back to Will with a single question. Are you coming? The novel ends there, open, deliberate. What I want to start with, because it underpins everything else, is Reynolds' formal choices. Long Way Down is written in free verse, sparse, staccato, relentless. And what might look like minimalism on the page is actually one of the most precise acts of literary architecture I've ever encountered. Every line break is load-bearing. Every white space breathes intentionally. The form is the story, urgent, compressed, perpetually on the edge of breaking open. Reynolds does not give you a single word to coast through, and that restraint is a radical act of respect for the reader. And the structural genius of the elevator conceit cannot be overstated. Reynolds confines his narrative to 60 seconds of fictional time, and rather than feeling claustrophobic or gimmicky, it creates something almost unbearable in the best possible way. The elevator is a liminal space between floors, between life and death, between who Will is and who he is about to become. Each ghost arrives not as a warning, but as a consequence, a thread in the train of how violence seeds some violence. Someone died, someone sought revenge, someone else died, on an unbroken line that stretches all the way back to Will's father, who shot the wrong man. The cycle doesn't just continue, it multiplies. Reynolds renders that truth not through argument, but through presence, through the simple, devastating weight of all these people crowded into an elevator that was never meant to hold this much grief. What moved me most, though, was the portrayal of grief under the suffocation of toxic masculinity. Will cannot cry, rule number 1 forbids it, and yet the pain Reynolds puts on the page is immense. It pulses through every line, even when Will's language is flat and clinical, even when he catalogs the facts of his brother's death with the affect of someone who has rehearsed numbness into reflex. You feel the grief precisely because it cannot be expressed. That tension between what is felt and what is permitted is one of the most honest things that this novel does. Reynolds makes you ache for the version of Will who was simply never allowed to simply be devastated. And I want to come back to the language because reading this aloud in front of middle schoolers without censoring it was one of the better instincts that I've acted on as a teacher. The students understood immediately without prompting that Reynolds's word choices were acts of fidelity, not provocation. To soften them would be to lie about the reality that he's documenting. There is a profound respect embedded in that refusal to sanitize, and young readers, particularly those who recognize something of themselves or their neighborhoods in these pages, feel the respect with an immediacy that no sanitized version could ever produce. Now, my honest critique, and I mean it gently, the ending stopped me cold the first time, and not in this transcendent way. My immediate reaction was frustration, much like the kids. We have spent this entire novel pressed up against Will's decision, and then Reynolds just stops. The doors open. Sean walks out, and that's it. In the moment, I felt almost cheated, as if the novel had made a promise it quietly pocketed before walking away. But I sat with it. And I came around, slowly, and not without some residual resistance at first. The ambiguity is not evasion, it is the point. Reynolds is not interested in delivering a verdict. He wants to leave the weight of Will's choice with you, the reader, and that is a tremendous act of literary trust. What happens when Will steps off that elevator is not Reynolds's question to answer, it's yours. But I'll say this. There will be readers, especially younger ones, who don't make that turn and who will feel not invited, but abandoned. One additional page, not to answer the question, but simply to let Will sit in the uncertainty for a beat longer, might have closed the gap just a little bit. What I keep returning to in this novel is what it says about inherited violence and the illusion of choice within systems that have already made the choice for you. Will did not choose the rules. He was born into them, absorbed them the way children absorb language before he had the framework to question them, before he understood that a code designed to protect a community can become the very thing that destroys it. Reynolds does not moralize about this. He shows you the machinery from the inside and leaves you to reckon with how few of us in Will's position would have done any differently. And this is why Long Way Down is essential reading for young adults and adults alike. For younger readers, it is a mirror or a window, an acknowledgement that their reality and someone else's reality is literature, worthy that their grief and their impossible choices deserve that full weight of art. For adult readers, it is a corrective, a reminder that the children living inside these systems are not cautionary tales or statistics. They are Will. They are 15, grief-stricken, handed a gun and a set of rules and no visible exit, and they are riding an elevator down. To read this book is to be asked to hold that truth without looking away. And that is why I am giving Long Way Down an unequivocal full 5 out of 5 stars. Jason Reynolds took a boy, an elevator, 60 seconds, and a gun, and made something that is simultaneously a work of art, a moral argument, a ghost story, and a testament to the full humanity of young people the world is all too willing to overlook. The Newbery, Prince, and Carter Scott King honors are not decorations. They are the literary community recognizing something true and necessary. Read it, and if you've already read it, tell me in the comments whether that ending landed for you the first time or whether you needed to sit with it like I did. I'd genuinely love to know. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You are awesome. Stay awesome. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.